Hello everyone, I'm Jenny Maltabano.
And I'm Jared Stepman.
And you're watching MediaMisses. This week, the conspiracy website InfoWars, run by Alex Jones, was either banned or had content stripped from most social media platforms. InfoWars is hardly a conservative website, but some fear that deplatforming will bleed over to mainstream outlets next.
Alex Jones is a bad guy, but the problem is this. Once you start saying that hate speech is a rationale for banning people from social media, you get into some very, very vague territory. Because as we know, the left does not have a consistent standard that they uphold when they are looking at hate speech. They don't say that anything that is hateful is banned and then define hateful in extraordinarily specific terms. They don't say anything that is offensive is banned because a lot of things are offensive. Instead, they use this term hate speech to simply label stuff they don't like hate speech. I know this because I've been targeted, not by social media per se, but by a lot of folks on the left who suggest that I am some sort of provocateur involved in hate speech.
Well, I think this is really only the latest and most dramatic example of how the essentially Silicon Valley and the tech sector goes after one website. We've seen this with YouTube using the Southern Poverty Law Center to kind of censor content and to kind of weed through it. And the left has really used Silicon Valley as a weapon against conservative speech. And this is an incredibly worrying thing. I think there's a reason why people are afraid, because they often act as the gatekeepers to the internet, to speech as a platform. And I think that a lot of people, whether they're on Facebook or Twitter or any of these other social media organizations, whether they use those, I think they have the right to be a little afraid right now that this is going to come for them next. Given the increasingly expanding use of the term hate speech, it is not unreasonable to think that purging InfoWars is the tip of an iceberg. And this belief was exacerbated by Senator Chris Murphy, who took to Twitter to suggest just that. InfoWars is the tip of a giant iceberg of hate and lies that uses sites like Facebook and YouTube to tear our nation apart. These companies must do more than take down one website. The survival of our democracy depends on it.
Listen, like we've talked about, InfoWars is hardly a conservative website. But I would tell the senator that the survival of our democracy actually depends on protecting the First Amendment, our freedom of speech. And it's a slippery, slippery slope, because if we start, slowly taking that away from InfoWars, it will bleed into other outlets like Daily Wire, like Daily Signal, for instance. It could happen. We need to be aware and on guard. Media bias apparently seems to be running rampant, but once again, the media swung and they missed. A Notre Dame professor caused quite a stir when he compared being in the media to serving in the United States military, saying, quote, "We thank soldiers for their service because they devote themselves to protecting our freedoms, and we should. But we should also thank the media for the same reason, especially when the stakes have never been higher."
This is incredible. I mean, unless you are Daily Signal reporter Nolan Peterson, who is literally on the front lines reporting from combat zones, you are not in the kind of danger that soldiers and troops are if you work in the media. Being a White House reporter, yes, it's tough business, but it has nothing like being a soldier who actually puts their life on the line protecting our freedoms every single day. If you're Jim Acosta or somebody like this, you just don't face that kind of threat. A few mean tweets are not the same as being in a battle zone. Remember when Fox News' Laura Ingraham told NBA's LeBron James to shut up and dribble?
Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
Well, the NBA star isn't taking Ingram's advice. Instead, he's starring in a new documentary series for Showtime titled none other than Shut Up and Dribble.
Just because LeBron James is an athlete and he signed a contract doesn't mean he signed away his rights to use his freedom of speech to voice his opinions. I know sometimes we get annoyed. We say, we just want to watch you on the TV and play your sport. But they're humans. They're Americans. They have the right to voice their opinions. And although sometimes it can be incredibly annoying and we might not think it's appropriate, they have that right. And Jarrett and I might disagree on this topic, and we'd love to hear what you all think about athletes voicing their opinions when it comes to politics. Occasionally, we come across stories that might not be a flat-out miss by the media, but they're ones that we think are important for you to be aware of, and that's definitely the case with this next story. Rosie O'Donnell was making some outlandish statements about President Trump's rallies while she was on with CNN's Chris Cuomo, but he actually wasn't having any of it.
He's bad because he doesn't know how to inspire people or evoke that emotion in them of
what about
truth
his rallies?
And of knowing. And First of all, people are paid, Chris. You know that. People were paid since he went down on the escalator. He pays people to show up at those
but
rallies.
I don't know that that's. But I don't know that that's why he gets tens of thousands at the rallies. I think he captures a lot of emotion for people.
He doesn't get tens of thousands. When did he get tens of thousands at the last rally? Tell me when.
Oh, no, not at the Tampa. I think they only had 9,000 seats, and there were people outside. But, Rosie, I've seen them. He gets big groups of people who come out. He gives themes that resonate. Whether they're positive or not, that's up to other people to decide. Maybe some are. I don't know. I can't.
Paid?
I don't have the facts that his crowds are bought off. I don't have that.
You can look at. Well, you can look at all the requests for extras to come and cheer and with signs for him. You can find those tangible pieces of evidence. Those are not real rallies.
Well, I know we've been hard on CNN on the show, but I think this time they really did the right thing. And Cuomo correcting the record, not just letting something that's clearly inaccurate stand. And what O'Donnell said about Trump supporters at his rallies being paid to be there, it's just ridiculous. You've seen the kind of passion. It's very genuine. Her statement was completely erroneous, and I think most people know that.
Well, for all of our history buffs out there, it's Stepman time. Jarrett, take it away.
One thing I think that really caught my eye this week that the media missed is how the NRA was gone after by the New York governor and New York government. They tried to essentially intimidate insurers who are working with the oldest civil rights organization in the United States, an organization that works to protect the Second Amendment freedoms we have. They're actually going after their First Amendment freedoms through the government of New York. I think this is an egregious abuse, and I think it's sad that the media hasn't covered this issue more.
We have not heard enough about it. Now, before we go, we want to give a giant shout out to our intern, Ryan Strand. He's been fantastic, and we wish him all the best. All right, well, you heard it here, the biggest media misses of the week.
And we want to hear from you. Be sure to email us at MediaMisses@dailysignal.com, and you might be featured next week.